and call the meeting to order. If all members are in the meeting room, all members are participating in the meeting are present and the meeting in the meeting room. The public has the option of attending in person here at Town Hall or via Zoom using the link posted in the meeting agenda. This meeting is being recorded. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session. Do you want to read that motion? Sure. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
And then just hand it back to me.
I move to convene in executive session pursuant to MGL C30A 21A Purpose 3 to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, Costa Brothers Mazzonari Inc. versus SureTech Insurance Corporation, DBA, Markel Surety and others, Middlesex Superior Court, number 2281 CV03297, because an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the board. Pursuant to MGL C30A 21A, Purpose 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate, land at Assessor's Map R3426B, U2670, and U268A, because an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the board, to allow Brian Bettram, Christopher Brown, Elaine Lazarus, and Lance Del Prieur to participate in executive session, to convene in open session after the conclusion of the executive session.
Second.
Okay, and we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Amy Rodabush, yes.
Shahidul Manan, yes?
Mary Jo Lafreniere, yes, and we will be back. Call this session to order, and we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, public forum, everybody will have up to 2 minutes to speak, and they can give their opinions, ask questions regarding town government. And I think Ken is going to be the first one up.
Thank you. Ken Weissmantel, 145 Ash Street. 2 items tonight. The annual town meeting article before you tonight on the warrant to fund the MWRA connection engineering is, in my opinion, written too narrow. In approving an interbasin transfer, the Water Resources Commission must find that there are no viable sources in the basin for water supplies. This is not a town decision, but based on a recommendation to the Water Resources Commission by their staff with input from the clean water side of the DEP. If they determine that our existing wells should be used, then the engineering must pivot towards some treatment. It's not our current desire, but given the time on that, you need to broaden the article, I think. I suggest wordings like to continue engineering to provide future water needs for clean water, including possible MWRA connection or something like that. I talked with Elaine on that on Monday, and I also talked with Paul Gallagher, your chair of your Water Sewer Advisory Board, and he agrees that a broader article might be in the best interest in case the Water Resources Commission would decide that treatment is needed on some or any of the wells. Okay. Second, PFAS in private wells is a big reason for the large ask in the quantity of water in this interbasin transfer. The current assumption is that the water department will provide water to all houses in Hopkinton. Yet there's very little data behind that assumption. The cost estimates don't include costs for main extensions. We have some limited data where testing is required by the Commonwealth for town wells on other smaller public water supplies such as restaurants, the YMCA, condos that are on private wells. Think of these as canaries in the coal mine. Because we have data there, we have very little data on public or on private homes. So I started doing some studying of the limited data and tried to figure out how the sources all fit together. And last week, made a lot of phone calls, studied some maps, spent some time with my friends at the DEP, and then finally I had my Aaron Brockovich moment. Now don't confuse this face with Julia Roberts, but I now have a theory that with some verification testing could explain how a source on the east side and a source on the west side result in the test results found in smaller private water supplies. More testing would help, of course, to get more data, but we may have identified the neighborhoods to look at where we think PFAS is likely in private wells. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Anyone else? Do we have anybody on?
Oh, no, Zoom,
No.
no one has their hands up. There's 2 people.
Nobody has a hand up. Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. Select Board will consider the following consent agenda. Minutes, the Select Board will consider to approve the minutes of the February 18th, 2025 meeting. The Select Board will consider confirming the town manager's appointment of Thalius Goodenho D'Souza as a custodial maintenance worker for the weekends. We will accept a gift for $2,200 from the Marathon Committee to the Friends of the Hopkinton to be used for the Hopkinton Family Day. And we will accept the resignation with heartfelt thanks to Nancy Stevenson from the Historical Commission. I understand she has been on that for many years, and we want to thank her for her dedication to that commission and to the town of Hopkinton. Thank you very much,
I agree.
Nancy.
She's been on that committee a very long time.
Huh?
She's been on that committee a very long time.
23 years, yeah.
Does a good job.
Something like that, yeah. It's amazing. Okay, does anybody want to take anything out?
Nope.
Nope.
No? Okay. Can I have a motion to move the consent agenda as written?
I move the motion to
approve the consent agenda.
accept the content agenda as written.
Second.
Okay,
And we don't need a roll call vote, right?
then we need a roll call vote.
Shreddel
We
Martinez.
don't. Or we can just say, that was when Brian was going to be remote.
Oh, I see.
Oh, okay.
So we can just
So,
do all.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, and now we have a temporary alcohol license for the Knights of Columbus. Anybody want to read that motion?
Yep, well, I think they're here if we have any questions.
Oh, there, hi. Good.
Joe Altman with the Knights of Columbus.
Excuse, yeah?
My name's Joe Altman with the Knights of Columbus. I'm the Grand Knight.
I'm glad to see you folks back again. I have enjoyed that night a number of times, and it's a lot of fun. And I think I actually won on a horse one night there, but
I will hope you can make it this year.
Now, I did see the police and the fire had a couple of questions. Have those been answered? Or?
Yes, yeah, I contacted them and took a staff or a crowd manager course with the fire department, so it's satisfied, yes.
Okay, so Elaine, we're all set with that? Yes. Okay. I'll take a motion.
I move to approve a special temporary alcohol license for the Knights of Columbus Bishop Rice Council 4822 for an annual fundraiser on May 3, 2025 from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. at St. John's Parish Hall.
Second?
Okay, can we have a roll call vote?
I think we can just do
We can just do,
Oh,
I know, it
it's a
says
roll call.
yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Comprehensive budget? All right, Kayla.
Elaine's going to, I'll go first.
Okay, Elaine, I'm sorry.
So Kyla LaPierre, Chief Financial Officer, is joining us this evening. And I just wanted to review with the board the comprehensive budget transmittal update that I provided. So on January 26th, I transmitted a budget to the board that was about 1.8 million out of balance. At that time, we were looking at revenue estimates available at that time, and town department budgets had also been reduced from their original submittal by about $1 million at that point. So I'm glad to say that now we do have the balanced budget, and the changes made to get there include the amount of free cash used has increased by a little over $3 million. Free cash would be used to fund capital expenses, the Special Education Reserve, General Stabilization Fund, OPEB, and town meeting articles. For budgeting purposes, we have to assume that all of the financial requests on the warrant are funded, and so everything on the warrant that asks for money is included, and then ultimately it's up to the voters as to whether those are approved. So those are all included in the budget. Also, since January, the governor's budget came out, and it showed a 3% increase in local aid. In January, we were assuming no increase, so that's been a change. Also, the budget is supported by a little over 109,000 in additional revenue from the overlay surplus, which was released by the Board of Assessors. And the school committee recommended budget has been reduced by $415,000, resulting in a 5.8% increase instead of a 6.4% increase. And employee benefits and insurance for town and school will increase 11.3%, largely driven by our health insurance costs. So overall, the town operating budget would increase by 3.28%, the school's operating budget by 5.8%. The payment of debt, principal, and interest is up over 40% from last year, so that's the big change. And the overall increase for everything is 12% for the entire budget. So our free cash was certified today for a little over $18 million.
That's
way more than.
That's great.
Right, so more than we had planned for. So we will have excess that's not budgeted, which will be carried over to the next fiscal year, because we're not planning to use all of that in this budget. There are many nice-to-haves that have been reduced from budgets this year, and so when we have a discussion about the excess free cash, I'm asking that we resist using it to fund operating budgets by reversing those decisions, that we stick to the reductions in requests that have been made along the way. That will put us in a better position for next year. And instead, we should discuss the best use of the funds in the longer term. The town will still have infrastructure and capital needs, and the economic outlook is uncertain for next year. So with that, Kyla will talk a little bit about the debt and so forth.
Yeah, so a couple of things. I think it's important to note that that 18 million is not normal. And one of the questions that may come up at town meeting is, how did we acquire so much? So it's important to note that 6 million of it came from the ARPA funds that we used to fund health and insurance benefits. So, and then 2.2 million of it was interest income on the investments that wasn't projected when we did the budget in 2025. So that accounts for over 8 million of it. So last year, when we certified free cash, it was certified at 9.5 million. So that's where the big swing comes from this year. And I think it's important to get that on record, that this is not normal. That's the first thing. So the second thing is, if you look at the pay-as-you-go proposed projects, not everything has been recommended by CIC yet. So as we discussed in the last select board meeting, they will take another look at the projects that weren't recommended the first round, knowing how much money we have available. However, it's going to be on priority and need of the town, not just because we have the money, we need to spend it. So I had a conversation with Matt, the chair of the committee, today, and we'll get together as soon as possible within the next 2 weeks to review those other 5 projects. Residents may ask, what can we use the money for? So we're going to have money left in the overlay surplus account from the LNG reserve that moved to the overlay surplus. That does not become free cash until FY27. We're also going to have money left over in free cash because we're only spending 11.4, and we have a little over 18. My recommendation is not to pay down debt. The reason why I'm saying that, I talked to Unibank yesterday, and you can't just pay down principal. You actually have to look at the callable bonds that the town has. We have 2 callable bonds at this point, one for 2013 and multiple ones for 2016. The 2013 is roughly $500,000. That's not going to make a dent in our overall debt projection. The 2016 is over 18 million. So we could make a little bit of a dent in that one, but the interest rates we're paying on those bonds are not comparable to the interest that we're actually earning on our investments. So it's not going to be worth the town paying down the debt because we're making more money than we would be if we pay down the debt. So at this point, my recommendation is to leave the debt as is. We have a good debt projection. We know what we're up against in the next couple of years. We also know that we have capital projects in our 5-year plan. So for FY27, our projection for capital is $9.7 million, just in capital for the general fund. That does not include MWRA and the enterprise requests. So if we were to put that extra money in, let's say, capital stabilization, which only has $375,000 at this given time, that could be in the best interest of the town, knowing the capital expenses that we are going to incur in the years coming.
So in the chart here, it's enclosure 2, capital request town meeting articles. There's transfer to special education reserve, transfer to OPEB, transfer to stabilization. Is that what you're saying? Or there's an additional stabilization for capital?
There's an additional, we have 4 reserve funds that in capital stabilization, we have not funded consistently.
Okay. So I think that makes sense to fund it a little more than we have in recent years. Yeah. If you
What is the withdrawal process from the capital stabilization? Is it?
It just has to, as long as whatever we use is within the definition of capital. So within our bylaws, there's 4 different criteria for capital. As long as it falls within the bylaw, then we can withdraw it from stabilization.
Okay.
It does require a town meeting vote.
Right, yeah. But it's not time-bound or?
No, the
added
funding
within
source would
some
just say
criteria?
capital stabilization.
Okay. I think that makes sense, yeah, keeping it there. And but I would also say, given some of the capital projects I remember, especially the special ed children's playground one, I'd like to see that happen sooner rather than later. So I know it's going to go back to CIC, like you mentioned. So that would be one of the higher priority ones that I remember. I don't remember them all, but I'm sure every one of them have, some level of priority and probably requires closer attention. So
Yeah, within the sources and uses budgeted document, I assumed everything was moving forward, including the playground. However, it may not have the recommendation of CIC or other committees, but I assume that we would use free cash to fund those if the town approves it.
Oh, that's right. So it can be approved in the town meeting, and we'll have to fund that. So that is accounted for in the 10.8 that you have allocated,
11.4.
11.4? Oh, okay, that's good then. Then it's healthier than what I thought.
Yeah.
Good. Now then, all the more reason to keep it in capital. Good work, yeah. One thing I was thinking, it would be helpful for the town meeting is if we can provide a breakdown of the free cash, whether in a presentation when you talk through this, just to give more visibility and understanding for the residents.
Sure.
As you said, it's not going to happen every year. And the second part is, as you hear me saying all the time, that I don't want it to happen as high as we get every year, so we can hydrate the funds ahead of time. So that'd be a good addition, I think.
Good.
And how much are you recommending we transfer to the capital stabilization? I don't see that in this sheet, but
Yeah, I haven't recommended. I just wanted to have the general conversation that I think we should take a portion of free cash and/or what's going to be left over in the overlay surplus to transfer to that. I think what we transfer is open for discussion, but it should be at least multi-million.
oh, we have a hand raised.
Hello, Brian. Welcome.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great, thanks. Sorry I couldn't be there on time either. I did come in as you guys were getting into the discussion about paying down the debt. I did talk to Kyla about this previously, and I understand what you're saying, Kyla, and I appreciate you looking into it, but I think it makes sense to do what you're proposing. That playground is in for the numbers for this, this coming fiscal year. So if town meeting supports it, we do have the funds for that. And then everything else can go as planned, as Kyla laid out. We still need to hang on to as much money as we can because we still have many years of big interest coming at us. We're just borrowing, I think it was 20 million, Kyla, that's raising our debt service right now.
We're planning to borrow 80 million in 26, 40 million in 27, and 20 million in 28, just for the school projects.
And this year's number is based on a $20 million borrow, correct?
80 million.
80 million? I thought we were doing 20 in 25 that we're putting debt service against, and then the 80 was in the following year, no?
We did 17 in FY25. We're going to do 80 in FY26, 40 in FY27, and 20 in FY28.
Okay, got it, thanks. Okay, no, I'm good though, thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Did I see an article for this stabilization fund in the town meeting?
Yes.
Capital, so we don't have that right now, but we will have it when it's voted on at town meeting.
Right, so we always put the article on town meeting warrant should anyone should we decide to do,
So this is for a capital stabilization fund, and it is in the town meeting as an article.
we have articles
Okay.
both to remove and to put in, and then eventually take one of those off.
Thank you. Anybody else? Shahidul?
No, I think we are all in agreement, it sounds like, and we want to put it in the capital, and totally agree. We don't want to reduce the debt using this because it doesn't give us much advantage at this time. So it makes
And the
sense.
good news, we are, within our financial policies, our 5% of our operating budget will be included in our general fund stabilization already, so we're within our policy.
Great, good work.
Amy?
No, I think I've got all my questions answered, so I appreciate the presentation and good answers. Yeah.
So the budget now doesn't include, it was actually, we created it before the free cash was certified. So the discussion of what to do or, how much money goes into capital stabilization will continue as we go forward.
Yeah, so we can increase the amount
Lane.
at town meeting.
Sorry, Elaine, can you outline what's going to be the next steps for the budget process? I mean, this vote we're taking this evening is not the end of it. If you could just outlay that for everybody.
That's correct. So tonight, the board will vote to accept the budget and to forward it to the Appropriation Committee. And their meetings start tomorrow evening on the budget and go forward over the next couple of weeks. And then they will formulate their recommendations as well.
And they will hold a public hearing on the budget?
They hold a public hearing as well, yes. So the public is welcome to participate.
And then after all that, they come back to us one more time and we take it and send it to town meeting. Is that correct?
That's right. It will come back here.
Yeah, so we can still modify if we have to.
Yes.
And in parallel to that, CIC will meet one more time to review the 5 items that were not discussed previously.
That's good. And in terms of the budget current state that we are going to move tonight, are we going to have a quick summary of the latest and greatest? What does it look like now? Is it fully balanced after the recent adjustments and everything?
Yes, it is. And it was in the packet. The sources and uses document is the summary, and then there's also the line items that are included.
Nice.
And it tells you exactly what the pay-as-you-go projects are and all the contributions for free cash.
Excellent.
Do we have the date for the appropriations public hearing yet? Or I guess not till they meet?
Not yet, so we are meeting every Wednesday for the next 4 weeks.
So probably the last one?
Correct.
Okay.
It will probably be after, so probably be the 5th week, yeah.
Okay.
And if the last meeting is April 2nd, then it will probably be the 9th of April.
Okay.
I want to thank you, Elaine and Kyla, for doing this exceptional work. It's very difficult and it's ongoing, and but as of right now, we're balanced. So that is quite an achievement, and I thank you both for doing the work you've done on it.
I'd like to thank the fantastic finance team.
Finance team, yes.
Work.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion. You want to?
I move to adopt the FY26 comprehensive budget, operating and capital, and submit to the Appropriations Committee.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call, okay.
Oh, because Brian's remote.
Because
Amy
Brian's
Ritterbush,
up
yes.
there. Okay.
Amy
Brian?
Ritterbush.
Brian Herr, yes.
Shahidul Manan, yes?
Amy Ritterbush, yes.
Mary Jo Lafreniere, yes.
Thank you. Good work.
Very good work.
2 months ahead of the meeting, so good time.
Okay, we have the annual town meeting articles to discuss. A lot of them here. And I don't know, have we gone over them?
Well, since Shahidul is here, maybe we could go over that Economic Development Advisory Board?
Yeah, advisory board article.
Oh, Brian.
Yeah, would it be possible for Elaine to kind of walk us through, because she knows which ones we need to weigh in on and which ones we don't need to weigh in? The economic development one, for sure we do. But I don't know if we need to go down a path with all of them. So I think she's got a plan for walking us through it.
Thank you. The first thing is that we've invited the general bylaw proponents to the next meeting to describe their articles and allow the public to ask some questions of them. So they will plan to be here next week to describe their articles. So don't need to discuss those tonight. They'll be discussed at the next meeting. So those are the ones in the general bylaw category.
Are any of those proposed by us, or they're all?
So the economic development ones
Oh,
are
right, yeah.
proposed by the select board, so you would want to discuss those this evening.
Okay.
So I would start with those, since next week, those will be coming up next week at the meeting.
Okay.
And then there are a number of articles on the warrant that eventually the board will need to make recommendations on. And it's not a time crunch to do that right now. You can wait on some of those. So tonight, I think the priority is the economic development ones.
Do you want to go over the economic development articles?
Sure.
I had made some suggestions in red,
Oh, okay.
which is what you have there.
This is on the printout? Okay. How do you want to do it? I think everyone read it. You want me to read through the whole thing?
Would you want to introduce it since it was your,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just
And-
introduce it.
I want to introduce it, and before I go into the details, one thing I wanted to understand from you all, and Brian, we talked about it in the last one, is that we have two paths with this. One is going with the warrant, and one is having the board form it here. So do we want to decide on that first, or do we want to go in parallel still?
So I think if you're going to go a different route other than town meeting, that's important for us to know now, so we can take it off to warrant.
That's the reason I bring it up. Any comments or thoughts? Brian, Amy, Mary Jo?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I think if it comes from the select board, we put it together, I think there's some more flexibility with that. I think it can be a little bit more nimble, and it may need to be nimble as it gets up and running for the first couple of years. So I think for those reasons, I would prefer that we not have it be on the warrant and have it come from the select board.
yeah, I agree, and I said that at I think the last couple of meetings. I think it'd be better if it came from the select board so that we could adjust as needed.
Yeah, and I appreciate those comments. And as I mentioned before, I put it as a placeholder, and my preference is also that we form it here for the same reason, that it's more flexible and, more can be iterative if we need to. So for those reasons, what I would propose, if you are all okay, that in the next meeting, we put it as an agenda item for discussion and formation, if we all agree, and also invite chambers or other stakeholders who would be interested to contribute to the commentary or formation of it. And at that time, we can, if everyone agrees, we can form it here and remove this warrant from the list at that time. Does that sound okay to everyone?
Yeah, could we discuss a little, it does sound okay to me, but could we discuss the suggestions so far, maybe?
Yeah,
Be good.
sure. So I'll read through the suggestion for discussion, and it would be reflected on when we discuss next week as well, or next time. So the purpose is of the Economic Development Advisory Board is to advise the town of Hopkinton on strategies and actions to promote economic development initiatives and programs that foster business retention and attraction, support local businesses, and sustainable development, and expand the commercial industrial tax base in order to address the town's structural deficit and improve the quality of life for residents. And the charge is the Economic Development Advisory Board will recommend economic development strategies and initiatives, programs, grants, and actions that will foster business retention and attraction, support local businesses and sustainable development, and expand the commercial industrial tax base in Hopkinton. The EDAB will conduct public outreach on economic development issues, plans, and ideas to inform its recommendations and collect data as needed. The EDAB will coordinate and collaborate with town staff in developing its recommendations and in data collection. The composition, the EDAB shall consist of 7 members who are Hopkinton residents appointed by the Select Board. Membership shall be as follows. 1 member of the Planning Board, a representative of the Hopkinton Chamber of Commerce, 5 at-large members, and the members shall initially be appointed to 1, 2, and 3-year terms to achieve staggered terms, and all members thereafter shall serve 3-year terms. The board shall annually elect a chair and vice chair from among its members. And the quorum, this is a correction, I think that correction makes sense, is the corrected version is a majority of the membership shall constitute a quorum. Laws and regulations, the EDAB shall comply with the open meeting law, public records law, procurement law, and any other laws and regulations relative to public officials and public processes as applicable. The EDAB is responsible for creating and posting its meeting agendas and for creating and approving its meeting minutes. So that's kind of the outline and the verbiage that we have. And I think the context we all discussed quite a few times, which is that with our raising taxes, we need to balance our budget, and the budget and cost is also rising. So with that, we need to add more revenue stream and not depend only on residential taxes. Currently, 11% comes from commercial real estate, 8% or 7 or 8% about from our commercial equipments. But that percentage is growing down because we are not growing the business at the pace we are growing our budget overall. So this is a great time to start focusing on that, if not past time, that we focus on attracting new business, small and large, not only to generate revenue, but also to enhance the quality of the residents' lives and having various services, and also attract large businesses. As we know, the revenue stream from Delhi MC is also has been going down. So that is kind of the context and purpose of this, so we can establish the office with the excise tax that we discussed and have this board advise on the strategy and the various activities of that office with a focus, laser beam focus on generating additional revenue through attracting business and adding more to our retail and business entities. That's kind of in a nutshell what the context and the content is for this.
The items that I changed that were originally in the packet, or that my suggestions are to add that piece about the structural deficit and improving the quality of life, because I've heard a lot of comments from the public that they're not really excited about expanding business. They bought a house in a residential town. They like living in a residential town. So I just thought it was important that we're trying to address the structural deficit and improve quality of life, like try to bring businesses that people will welcome and will want, that will be compatible with the town. Let's see. And then because we ran into this problem with the Water Sewer Committee, I thought it should be a majority of the membership, not the majority of the appointed members, because I don't want it to be where we only appoint 3 members and then a quorum is 2, and then there's only 2 people making these decisions. And I did reach out to the planning board, and they're going to think about it and get back to me about whether they wanted, we could be 1 member of the planning board or a designee of the planning board, maybe, if they felt like the planning board has a lot of long meetings. I didn't know if they wanted to go to another meeting. So, but I'm waiting to hear back from them.
Suggestions? Anything else?
Those are my suggestions, yeah.
Just a question, if we don't have feedback from the planning board before the next meeting, should we postpone this until we have their feedback?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
We just got to be careful with the agenda for the next meeting. I think that might be filling in. So I would say within the next couple of meetings, we can definitely get to it without disrupting some other things. So if we could consider that. And then we'll nail down sort of the language and the charge, if you will, at that meeting. I don't want to get into it tonight because it'll be here for a while.
Sure, makes sense. And in terms of the verbiage, I think in my original one, I had another one that is somewhat that the businesses that are in line with the town's character and our aspirations. I think that's also important because there are concerns that we don't want to lose the character and the natural as well as the homely look and feel of our town. So a little bit touching on those, I think would be helpful.
I'm just going to make a short comment, having been on the Board of Assessors and worked in the town for I won't say how many years, but more than 30. And the ratio between business and residential has not changed by a couple of points every year. We're like an 80-20 ratio, and that really needs to be changed. And I think it's something like this, looking at all the possibilities and having someone pursuing it, that we might finally see a change. But we are a residential community, and even with all the growth and everything that we've had, that ratio just doesn't change. And it's time we need to add some to the commercial industrial to help the residents that we do have here.
All right, is there another warrant article, Elaine, you want us to look at?
The other one for economic development is the Economic Development Office, and that's also something that does not need to go to town meeting.
Same basic discussion we just had, though, right?
Correct.
If we're gonna be nimble about the committee or the board, whatever we're gonna call it, I would think we'd want to be nimble with this position too.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is dependent on revenue as well.
Do we have to take votes to take both of these sort of?
Yeah, we
can't take
have-
it off the warrant now. We just take no action, right?
The board does have to vote to remove them since the board voted to put them on the warrant.
And
So
when
we
is
can
it?
remove them at this point, or just take no action against it.
You can remove them.
Up until what date?
Up until the warrant is signed, we can remove articles.
So that's the beginning of April we sign it?
Right.
Okay.
So, any more questions?
No?
Brian, Jaidu?
Well,
No,
do
but
we-
if we're all in
comments?
agreement that we want to do this at the board level, we probably should take a vote this evening to remove them from the warrant.
So I'm comfortable removing it from the warrant if we're committed to creating it
I am
ourselves.
too,
Yeah.
yeah. I think that's fine.
All right, you want to make a motion?
So I would make a motion to remove the article for the establishment of the Economic Development Advisory Board from the warrant.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye? Oh,
Or Amy
No,
Rodobush, yes.
no, roll call. Brian?
Brian Herr, yes?
Amy Rodobush, yes.
Shahid Manan, yes?
Mary Jo Lefreniere, yes.
And then the same about the creation of the Economic Development Office, because we'll wait on that till this committee meets.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so I would make a motion to remove the article titled "The Creation of an Office of Economic Development" from the warrant.
Second?
Okay, Brian?
Brian Herr, yes?
Amy Rodobush, yes.
Shahid Manan, yes?
Mary Jo Lefreniere, yes. Okay, and now I need a motion to adopt the fiscal '26 comprehensive budget, operating budget and capital, and submit it to the Appropriations Committee.
Oh, did we not do that?
I think you did that.
I think we did that already.
Did we? We didn't have a vote.
Did Lance record the vote? Because I don't want to not have done it.
Okay.
Okay.
With regard to town meeting, if there are other articles that you've identified you have questions about or need information on, we're happy to gather those. So if you have noticed anything you'd like us to be working on, to provide to you, just let us
One
know.
article, I couldn't quickly find it, but I think it is there, is about the library related ones, maybe for awareness, or we probably don't need to take any actions, but for awareness, it would be good to discuss, I think. Do you want me to pull it up?
The one to include appointment powers for the Board of Trustees, is that,
Right, yeah.
okay.
Which number is that?
Well, they're not numbered yet. It's on page
For the end.
83 of the packet or page 48 of the warrant.
Yeah, there are page numbers, that's it. No article numbers.
Sorry, Amy, which page number is that?
So page 83 of the packet,
83?
or you could do page 48 of the warrant.
Okay, yeah, I found it. So this is Board of Library Trustees is the sponsor of this. Elaine, do you want to elaborate on that?
So the Board of Library Trustees would like to have the authority to appoint the library director and to amend the charter to give them that authority. And I think they're happy to come and discuss that with the board if the board would like to do so.
Did you say in agreement with the charter?
Be an amendment to the charter.
An amendment to the charter that, and how would that go? Amendment that the director appoints?
Right now, it's the town manager.
Town manager,
So it would be the
okay,
board that would appoint it.
okay.
And that would have to go through 2 town meetings, right, to make a change to the charter? Or,
It would be an amendment that would, it'd be a special act.
okay, so then it wouldn't have to go?
It's a town meeting once.
Just once,
Yep.
okay.
But then the special act is a special act, and then it goes to the legislature and who knows when that would happen.
Right, or how long it will take.
I'd be curious to have them join us for a meeting and explain the rationale, because I think
Yeah.
the process maybe they're assuming, maybe they're not. I don't know. I don't want to speak for them. It's quite laborious, and I'm not sure what the end game is, though, really.
Yeah, I think that would be good to have them here and discuss through this. They were here actually in the last meeting, but we didn't get to discuss through that. So I support the same and suggest the same. Generally, I think, but I'll let them explain. They were saying that it is now becoming or pretty common among the 341 towns to have this structure. But again, I don't have the full data and I don't want to speak or what they may have already well thought out. So let's have them here.
I mean, at the end of the day, the library, board of trustees can put an article warrant on town meeting floor, which they have done. So it's not that we can't stop. I have no interest in stopping. I'm just curious what their thinking is. That's all.
Makes sense, yeah.
For the changed day and time of annual town meeting, I've been thinking about that one a lot. I know it's not our article, it's the town clerk, but I guess I was wondering if he might be amenable to switching it to have the town meeting start no later than the first Saturday of May each year. Because I have this fear that if we change it to Saturday and attendance is worse, or it can't happen easily because it's the middle school play that day, I'd like us to be able to try it on Saturday if that's what people want, but to have the flexibility of switching back to Monday if it turned out it was not great attendance. And I thought some towns do have it in their charter that, not the specific exact day and time, but within a certain time frame.
So the town clerk will be present at the next meeting.
At the next meeting.
Talk about it.
What's the home rule petition we have in there?
The Economic Development Fund,
For the funds, for the
the meals tax.
The mills tax, the
meals
use of it.
tax, what we're going to do with the meals tax. And they want to earmark that for economic development? Yeah.
And that's what we also discussed when we proposed it the last time in the town meeting.
I remember, yeah.
That's already in process, isn't it?
Well, it doesn't have a fund to go into right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think to actually allocate it, we'll need the specific warrant.
It's a special act, yeah.
Yeah, so it goes into the general fund right now by default.
Yeah. And I did want to note that since we published this in the packet, the Open Space Preservation Commission withdrew their land purchase article. So will be out in the next draft.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Any comments?
I'm good.
I think I'm all set.
Oh,
Good, yep.
thank you
Oh.
for reminding me.
You had some?
Lance just reminded me, we do need to at some point discuss the PFAS article as well.
Oh, right.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, the PFAS article.
Has that come back from Brand's review? Brand Bertram was reviewing it, and
So what we see here is his edited version, which made it a resolution. So it's a non-binding resolution.
Oh, okay, so that's on page 49. I'm sorry, I missed that was a change.
It's the last article right now.
I would like to encourage people to get their wells tested. We know what we're up against.
yeah,
So are we all set on the warrant articles for tonight anyway?
I'm still
Yes,
reading
thank
that PFAS one with the changes, if that's okay. So it says no town disclosure requirements, but if there were state or federal disclosures, am I reading that correctly? If there are state or federal disclosures, people would have to disclose that.
We can't prevent that.
Okay.
Who's the sponsor of that article?
Select Board?
it was proposed by me, Brian, and the select board. We voted.
Okay. Got it.
So the spirit of this is to encourage testing without any binding, And so we get a better sense of what's happening, and as well as people can make their own decision on their own property, whether to test, and if the test results are something that they want to act upon, entirely up to them. But this is to encourage that that action, so to speak. And it's voluntary and no town disclosure requirements. And state-wise, I was waiting for Brian's comments, but my understanding is state-wise it's not mandatory to report. However, if the results become above the threshold during sales, they have to disclose it, something like that. So I wanted some confirmation on that, but generally, they don't have to disclose. And then no legal obligation for remediation, town support, and resources. That's the other part that we want to promote and encourage people to test. So from town, we'll provide the education, the support, and guidance to do that, and also, basically to help them out with any advice where we can, and then monitoring and evaluation based on the results and whatnot. From the town, we can provide some mechanism to assess the effectiveness of the efforts.
But correct me if I'm wrong here, but the state and the federal government would probably require residents to disclose this, and they may have a legal obligation for remediation. It just wouldn't be imposed by the town. It would be imposed by the state and federal government?
So the town can't change those requirements?
No, I understand. So I want to be clear that residents will still have to disclose. That won't prevent that. They just won't, it won't be imposed by the town.
That's a good question. So that's what I wanted to kind of have a legal expert to clarify. From what I heard and my research, it's a little, the way it's said is that the state does not, say I test my well today, I don't have to disclose it to the state. But if the limits are above threshold, when I sell it, I think that's when I have to disclose it, but that law is also on the table. It hasn't fully passed yet. I think that was introduced in January. But assuming that passes, then that will be the first time to legally be obligated to disclose it, that I found there's PFAS in my well. When I sell it, I have to disclose it. But remediation is not mandatory. At that time, it will be a negotiation, just like radon is today, between the seller and the buyer. So that's one thing. And again, I'm not a legal expert, so I'm also leaving it to some interpretation. But there is a caveat, which is when the limit is above the threshold, the labs have to report it to the state. So that way it becomes visible and acknowledged by state. That's my understanding.
If we put rules in place as a single entity, as Hopkinton, that don't line up with the other communities in Massachusetts, we are doing a huge disservice to the homeowners of Hopkinton when it comes to selling their home. I think we have to be very careful. I'm all for doing the testing and I'm all for reporting if it's statewide. If it's just Hopkinton reporting, it's going to kill our real estate market, and I would be strongly opposed to it if it's just us. If it's everybody, then I'm all in.
I think it's the opposite, that Shahidul's proposing that we don't have to report it, right?
That's my understanding. Again, we have Board of Health. Sean is here. If you want to chime in, feel free.
It just also, if I may, I recommend that we, since the Board of Health does regulate private wells, that we should work hand in hand with the Health Department on this issue.
That's correct. That's why I sent it to Sean and the Board of Health when I first proposed it. And to Brian's point, I totally agree. We don't want to jeopardize anything here. The whole spirit is to promote public health, and not knowing is not probably going to help long term from a public health perspective, because that will lead to people not taking an action and probably in good faith drinking things that they could have done differently. That's my personal opinion, but I agree that we don't want to do anything that will jeopardize or risk anything for our town's real estate as well.
Just for myself, I'd be more comfortable if we remove items 2 and 3, because, but we could wait till we hear from the Board of Health, I guess.
And one last thing, and is that this is completely voluntary. This is kind of doing our fiduciary duty as to make it a priority for all without any binding. So if someone says, you know, I'm not comfortable doing it, they don't have to do anything.
I'm just not sure what it changes, because already people don't have to do anything, right? Like, so it doesn't change it to put it in, is a bylaw change, is it?
Just a resolution.
A resolution,
It's a
okay.
resolution, yeah.
Okay.
That's why. It's more of, you know, call to action than
Okay.
actually mandating. That's the least I think we can do, because I'm also concerned that we cannot mandate and put, you know, people at any form of obligation that other towns are not starting to do yet, or that may incur other challenges. This is more of a resolution, call to action, and awareness. Many people may already know or think that it's a possibility as well, right in their backyard. So this is first step to awareness. And I think as town leaders, it's our fiduciary duty to do what and when and as early as we can to build that awareness. And honestly, there are many instances of public health challenges, issues, and even disasters where not taking such actions early on results in adverse impact 10 years, 20 years later. So it's just a first step on that. So one personal experience I had is back home in Bangladesh, there was an arsenic crisis for a long time. There was arsenic in the water, and it's not visible, it looks fine, it tastes fine. And people didn't know it or even just ignored it, right? And then 20 years later, there were all kind of horrible diseases across, you know, town after town, village after village. And then there was remediation that took place and people's lives were saved, but many suffered and millions actually suffered with cancer, with deformity, all kinds of stuff. And if you Google it, you'll see the horrible stories. But that kind of taught me that, you know, there are ways even a small step can help for a long-term plan for better health. Sean, you want to chime in if everyone wants to hear?
Say through the chair, I'd be pleased.
Do we have other articles we want to discuss, folks?
Yeah.
I'd be pleased to come forward at a meeting. Because not being on the agenda, I don't know if I can.
Yeah, we can schedule, so for those who can't hear, in the audience, Sean McAuliffe, Health Director, is offering to come to a future meeting to discuss.
Okay. We'll see what.
Excellent.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else? Any questions? Any comments?
No?
Okay, so now we, town position posting.
So for the town manager report.
Yep, town manager report.
So for the Main Street Corridor Project, the new ornamental streetlights and pedestrian lights are operational. I've enjoyed using the flashing crosswalk beacon.
Did you say it's on?
Yes,
Oh,
it works.
we will try it tonight. Okay.
It works well. And then, other than possible work to reinstall streetlights, Eversource is scheduled to be completed on their project by March 14th.
Oh, good.
So it was light out when we arrived, so we didn't see. The lights were working. That's good.
And the streetlights are working as well.
Okay.
We're going to have a ribbon cutting.
And she'll-
Not yet.
You can just walk out from the meeting. Yeah, from town hall.
So
Progress.
just so everybody knows, the streetlights are set at 85% right now. They seemed a little low. I checked with public safety, and they were wondering if they could be turned up a little bit as well. So they're going to turn them up to 100% as of this afternoon. And we'll look at that for a few days and see what people think, and then we can adjust a little bit as well going forward. We don't want them so bright that it's a Christmas tree like we were worried about a little bit before, but we don't want them so low that they're not really adding to the safety of downtown in the evenings or at night. So more to come there, but we are tweaking them And the way you change the output is you click a button on a computer. So it's a very simple process to adjust.
I like that approach. One thing I would suggest, how are we going to gather any feedback on that, to Brian's point?
Well, we'll get plenty of feedback if they're too bright. Don't worry about it. I think it'll be fine, but we'll see. It's only going to go up 15%. It's going to go from 85 to 100 and see how that goes. So we'll see.
Oh, I look forward to it.
And then for the next item, town position vacancies. So the Health Department is recommending approval of the posting for a temporary per diem nurse, and I also recommend that the board authorize that posting. And they did include information on the importance of the position, which will be working on public health, and will be working funded by the Metro West Health Foundation grant, the FY25 department budget, and the Friends of Senior Center grant.
That's great. Are we going to get the vaccination back?
Okay.
Vaccination program back?
Looking forward to getting some help.
So
You want to make the motion?
I move to approve the posting of temporary per diem nurse in the health department.
second.
All in favor?
Roll call
Roll
vote.
call now.
Roll call. Brian?
Brian, Hur, yes.
Amy Rodobush, yes.
Shahidul Manan, yes.
Mary Jo Lafreniere, yes. Okay. Liaison reports. Anybody have any liaison reports?
Hold on, I took some notes.
I'm good. I don't have anything.
Let's see. I think I emailed about this a while ago and I've forgotten, but I was wondering, it's from a resident about the changing of the speed limit on Hayden Row Street. I wanted to add that as a future agenda item.
Changing of what?
What's the process for changing the speed limit on Route 85, especially as we get more and more schools?
Okay.
Because I think someone told me it was under the select board, but I'm sure there's a long, complicated process.
A speed
That's
study?
that's a state highway, Amy. 85. That's a state process. It's not a local process. We talked to the chief about that in the past.
Typically, it involves a speed study. as
Right.
well, which does cost something.
So it would cost the town to do the
Yes.
speed study. Okay.
Did you say a former resident, though, Amy?
What's that?
Did you say a former resident?
No, a current resident. It's been brought up to me multiple times
Got it.
by current residents.
Yeah, I do know it's a state process that we would have to go through.
Speed studies can also result in an increase in the speed limit depending on what's found in the study. So it may be counter to what you're hoping for sometimes.
Maybe what?
It can also result in an increase in the speed
Right.
limit. So it may be, if you're hoping for a reduction in speed limit, you may have the opposite effect.
Yeah, this was when John Westerling was the DPW director. He did Traffic and Pedestrian Safety Forum with EHOP a long time ago, and I thought he had talked about the process back then, and that was one of the reasons I thought that we had installed those signs that measure your speed when you're coming off Chestnut from Milford onto Hayden Row, so that we could measure if it would likely be a reduced speed or not. So I think we might have that data, but. So I guess I would like to request that as a future agenda item to understand the process better. It could just be a memo, I guess.
Okay.
And then I think I'll look it up. I think we were invited to another iftar dinner. I think that's been 3 in a row. Hold on.
Okay, we have any other reports?
Oh, there's a interfaith program at the mosque.
That's
on
what I was
the
thinking,
14th and 16th. On two mosques, so all are invited. John.
Yeah, so it looks like it's on the 14th is the one on the corner of South Street and West Main,
Right.
and the one on the 16th is the one at the mosque on Wood Street.
Okay, great. Anything else? No? Okay. Anybody want to bring up a future agenda item? We talked about economic development.
Yeah, we're,
I'm all set. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm all set, too.
I'm good, too.
You too, Amy?
I think I'm all set. I think that was my only item.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair, I move motion to adjourn today's meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Amy Roderbush, yes.
Brian?
Brian heard no.
Uh-oh.
Bye.
Bye.
Edelman, yes.
Amy?
Amy Roderbush, yes.
Mary Jo Lafreniere? Yes, and we'll see you on the 18th.
Yep.